Lots to share with you in the business report today. Upon the return of the Cygnus Business Breakfast Summit, held under the theme Building Resilience, Mobilizing Capital for a Sustainable Caribbean. Cygnus, as the appointed fund manager of the US $135 million Caribbean Community Resilience Fund, CCRF, a 10-year impact investment fund, facilitating the deployment of capital into critical sectors necessary for development. As we hear from Gerardo Aguilar, head of Climate and Resilience at Cygnus.
And that's where the Caribbean Community Resilience Fund from Cygnus is, I would say, an innovation in channeling all that money with those two elements, science and technology, available to us, right? So I think the opportunity is to truly support people such as yourselves. You're here because you have an interest and a commercial interest on a business. That's why you're here. So from Cygnus' standpoint, we want to work with those leaders that are seeking the science and technology applicable to the geopolitical context that we're in.
Designed to address the pressing challenges posed by economic shocks and climate change, the CCRF represents a collaborative effort by the CARICOM Development Fund, Cygnus, USAID, Cross Boundary, and the Rocky Mountain Institute Island Energy Program. Emmanuel De Rosa, founder and CEO of Sunterra Energy, has received permits and financing for a 50-megawatt solar farm in Jamaica named Midnight Sun, with a 20-year license to supply power to the national grid by 2027.
The solar farms and solar projects have proved their worth, coming in at some of the lowest cost energy, presently delivering, power to the grid here in Jamaica and across the Caribbean. I mean, that's a given, but we can only go so far with intermittent energy. It can only really deliver the first 10, 15%, and beyond that, we need to start adding storage to it. So when you look at our 50 megawatt project in Trelawney, it's selling energy at 5.99 cents a kilowatt hour in its first year. So that's it's probably one of the lowest costs of energy in Jamaica, and that's US cents. But anyway, so there's an opportunity there. When we look at the government's announcement last week of another 220 megawatts of renewable energy associated with another 110 megawatts of battery storage, I mean, that is going to further enable, the reduction of energy costs here in Jamaica.
For Minister of Water, Environment and Climate Change Matthew Samuda, the pursuit of large-scale transformational projects would be accelerated further if Caribbean contractors had higher capacities.
One of the challenges we're actually going to face is not necessarily whether or not there is global interest from a capital perspective or there is a suite of investments. The question is the implementation capacity at a contractor level. We have very few enterprise level contractors that operate in the Caribbean, and because for a long time I'd say what you were saying was probably worse than how you'd assessed it. The opportunity wasn't large enough for sufficient enterprise contractors to operate in the Caribbean. You really have about 3, regardless of English or Spanish-speaking countries that are operating here. And we will need 20 for the region to be able to deploy the sort of resilience projects at scale, at speed that we will if we're going to be resilient to the climatic risks.
For Beresford Gray, CEO and president of Cygnus, it requires an expansion of the scope of what Caribbean entrepreneurs and investors conceive as being possible.
In the case of Jamaica, for example, we have great successes in attracting capital and allow investors to make great return. We have the Port Authority, we have the highway, many examples. So how do we sell that story? How do we go to the international market with opportunities that build on our track record in P3 so that they can have confidence in understanding that they will make money and get their money back in these projects?
The Cygnus president and CEO also believes local players must be prepared to take over those projects when the time comes.
If I'm an international investor, sometime, if you are asking me to invest in infrastructure, I would love to see a local guy there, right? Because I know that I'm going to have to exit this asset at some point. So I would like to see a local investor who is saying, yeah, that highway is great, that airport is great, that sewage plant and so forth is great, and I will be there, because when you are ready to exit, I would like to be at the table to buy you out, to take you out. So a part of the crowding effect must be that local capital, pension funds, and I keep saying this a lot, with long-term view, should be in these resilience projects. It cannot be that we are putting our pension money with these fund managers and they can't take long-term view and bankable, de-risk, attractive projects.
And that was your business report. I'm Joel Crosskill.